The intent of the Student Center was one which satirizes the flaws of certain aspects of UP and BHU student culture by highlighting contradictions to bring about a change in the overall development and attitudes of students through its narrative design. Almost every 4 years, violence has rocked the BHU campus because of the student council elections and protests regarding it. The administration dissolved the council in 1997 after the deaths of 2 students. But student protests for its restoration forced the administration to organize a committee to look into it. The committee concluded that it was unfair the students didn't have a platform to communicate with the world. They had a right to flaunt their achievement of becoming the leaders of great institutions like BFU. Why deprive them and their parents of the bragging rights that come with their positions to their friends? The administration cannot suppress this inherent part of their culture, so a new student center that celebrates this was announced. As protagonist 1, a senior standing for the student council, approaches the student center, he feels his heart race sees his entrance, a break in the high wall which frames the central space, what he felt was the arena. The committee realized that people like the protagonists, those who stand for council elections, are the victims. If someone has been brought up to stand up for themselves, is it fair that their student life should be ruined over violence while campaigning? It wasn't their fault they were brought up culturally disadvantaged in this changing world. What is needed is a safe space for the council candidates standing for the posts to fight it out in the arena. Protagonist 2 also feels her heart pound as she makes her way to her own arena. The increasing number of female students in BU and the push for equality advocated by the committee corresponded to increasing female participation in the student council. So the committee appropriated another space within the student center for female candidates to spar. The gun range. She turns to see the gym and the black wood facade of the arena adjoining the range before she enters it. Protagonist 2 sees all the firing lanes besides 3 are empty. Despite being mostly occupied, the room remains quiet, with every surface muting sound. She feels awkward as she sets up on one of the preparation benches, avoiding eye contact with her opponents, focusing on the target. The tunnel is cold. It was designed to allow ambulances to take the losers to the campus hospital. His opponent will enter from another tunnel on the opposite side of the arena, in their father's car flaunting his family's wealth to impress his supporters. The noise from the end of the tunnel increases. His opponent needs to leave the space in the ambulance. Protagonist 1 feels eerie as the wind whistles through the slits. As he looks through one, he sees the old mining tunnels where he'd rather be. The spaces feel like the camps around a tourney ground with each one belonging to a faculty, rallying for their supported candidate. They were deserted with flyers strewn all over. The noise gets louder. Protagonist 2 rushes into the stands of the arena. The vestibules beside her roar as she sees one, her partner, emerge from a tunnel. The end of the tunnel approaches one as light washes in. The sound is deafening. Exposed sedimentary rock surrounds the concave ground of the arena, merging with the concrete of the tunnel. Staggered spiral sequences of vestibules start above this primal space. She continues climbing through the arena stands, entering a niche that houses the extension of the Faculty of Commerce space. This space is where campaign finances are managed and where today's bets are placed. Earlier, the administration claimed students used to coerce others into donating to candidates. The committee understood it shouldn't deprive the enterprising young students from collecting campaign donations. She stands near the opening overlooking the entire arena. The corten steel panels angle upwards from the vestibules. The collective voices of its occupants reverberating. He mostly hears the jeers of his own supporters, making him aggressive. His opponent enters on the other side. The next day. As protagonist 1, bruised and now a part of the council, joins protagonist 2 at a different threshold, it becomes clear that the charred exterior of the arena looks like an abstraction of a shikara. The influence of the most pressing issue of that time is clear. The celebration of the construction of the Ayodhya temple in the constituency of Modi, imposed upon the location of the former badminton hall. The idea of the arena as a somewhat holy space amuses protagonist 1. Wasn't it infested with termites? The different spatial elements direct their perception towards the arena and the gun range. While the path pulls him towards the mining tunnels underground. He didn't remember the mining tunnels being so extensive, a network connecting every space expanding like termite working tubes. Protagonist 2 broke him from his distraction, dragging him to the space housing the administration. This was far away from the arena, to keep them away during the fight. He knows they avoid the space regardless to protect the institute from liability. With their task at the administrative block completed, the protagonists walk out towards the arena. The arena stands will not have a soul, except for those who need to use the washrooms. It was an ideal place to just sit down to celebrate their victory in private. But protagonist 1 felt empty, not triumphant. The charred wood panels felt as though they were rotting. He notes the facade looks much worse than it did in his first year. Protagonist 2 comments, yes, we should make sure funds are spent to replace the aging panels. He feels uneasy at the thought of rejuvenating this place of violence. This space is rotten to its core. Is that the point? That violence is pointless. He gets up and leaves Protagonist 2. The intuitive path takes him away from the arena towards the old mine entrance. She doesn't get his fascination with the tunnels. Why are the spaces underground expanding like termites? Does it really even need that much space? She rhetorically scoffs. Protagonist 1 feels excited as he enters the final threshold. It feels like a veil. Hiding behind it in the tunnel spaces are the archives of history and political theory, stacked with manifestos, and the communal reading spaces where he was pushed to interact and debate those from different backgrounds and perspectives, a different arena. The protagonist came to an epiphany. The arena must be left to rot and die.